National Assembly is getting closer to voting on Bill 96. Some legal experts are concerned about the reach of the changes. Bill 96 aims to increase the use of French in public and workplaces in Quebec. To do that, the bill proposes several changes to the existing charter of the French language. Parts of it will be repealed, wording will be changed or strengthened in other parts, and sections will be added to the charter. The bill, among other things, invokes Section 33 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. That allows the government to declare that a law will operate despite, in other words, notwithstanding one or more charter guarantees. Joining us now is Frédéric Bérard. He is a lawyer. He's and a professor in constitutional law at the Université de Montréal and co-director of l'Observatoire national en matière de droit linguistique. Maître Bérard, good morning.
Good morning.
Bill 96 invokes the notwithstanding clause for the Charter of the French language. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, actually, it's quite problematic because we're getting used to it in Quebec and to use that notwithstanding clause without any justification. The National Assembly did that with Bill 21, and we're about to do exactly the same with Bill 96, which is a problem because what is the notwithstanding clause? I mean, it's a way to suspend the rights and freedoms of citizens without justification and making sure that there will be no judiciary control, which is not what precisely I think about the rule of law, right? And I think that this goes quite too far because we're getting to a point that we use it without even mentioning why we're using it. So I think that we are seeing a trend as we speak that is quite dangerous for the rule of law, but it's also dangerous for the democracy because a real democracy is based on the rule of law.
Mm-hmm. And full disclosure, you are challenging the use of the notwithstanding clause in court for Bill 21.
I'm happy to see you say it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I'm happy you just mentioned it.
Yeah. And then, of course, that case is still before the courts, and then we'll wait to see next steps on that. Maître Bérard, the bill will give the new French language minister a lot of power. Do you know of any law on the books right now where a minister has the power that we see in the changes to the French charter of the French language?
Not that I know, and we're not only talking about the powers to a minister. We're also talking about powers to inspectors of the OQLF, and one of them is quite dangerous. Is the right to go to your house, go to your business, and to search and seize whatever they think might be useful for their research. And this particular provision is suspended, is justified by the notwithstanding clause that we just talked about. So this is another illustration. This is a concrete illustration, if I may say, of how dangerous is the notwithstanding clause when we use it that way.
When you talk about that, what right is being violated or not being respected in the case of, again, the change that we're talking about here is that the inspectors have the ability to enter any place except a dwelling house at any reasonable hour, gives them access to any computer or company equipment to examine, copy, and print data as part of the inspection process.
Yeah, correct. Usually, we have the right to be protected against illegal seizure. This is Section 8 of the Canadian Charter of Rights. This provision is now suspended by the notwithstanding clause, which means that the ministers or the inspectors could do whatever they like in regards of a seizure, which is again against my conception of the rule of law. We fought a long time to have those provisions within the charter, and now I mean it's quite how may I put it? It's certainly quite not a good feeling to see that it's so easy for those inspectors to go to your place and seize whatever they like without any judicial authorization.
Mhm. The OQLF will also be given more reach when it comes to filing complaints. One edition reads in part like this. If the description of the facts supporting the complaint is not specific enough, the office shall help the complainant draw up the complaint. I'm wondering from you, where does this leave the person or business that is the subject of a complaint?
Yeah, well, that remains to be seen, but it's quite something to see that we're asking the victim, if I may say, of a complaint to collaborate with the authorities without his or her consent. So here again, I mean, it's something like that we don't see much often, and obviously I don't have any other illustration in mind in any other laws in Quebec right now.
There's been some confusion around Bill 96 and access to health and social services. Premier François Legault was clear at his news conference earlier this week that Bill 96 will have no impact on the services provided to Quebec health establishments and that English speakers and newcomers can be treated in the language of their choice. Do you see anything in Bill 96 that would prevent people from getting services in English?
Well, I think that François Legault is not saying the perfect truth here because if you take a look to Bill 96, I mean, it's clear that all the immigrants and refugees have a maximum of 6 months to learn French. And if they don't, they won't be able to be served in another language than French. And it goes for the health services, which is obviously quite dangerous, if I may say. As for the Anglophone, the historical Anglophone minority in Quebec, it's not quite sure. I mean, they have to prove that they're part of it if they want to receive their health services in English. But how can you prove that precisely? And when you're in the hospital bed, I don't think it's the right time to prove that sort of things. I mean, it's the right time to be served in English to make sure that everything's fine, and after that we could fill up all those documents and whatever. So here again, I mean, it's not pretty clear what they're trying to do, but I'm quite sure that will be quite a mess in terms of the logistical process.
Mhm. Uh, The CAQ is in the majority. This bill will become law, and the changes to the Charter of the French language will come into effect. What will you be watching for once that happens?
Um, I mean, we need to see what's going to happen during the next days because there's nothing yet that is quite clear. I mean, they can they can remove some parts, they could amend some parts. We'll see what's going to happen. But what I know, from what I know, I mean, Québec solidaire and the Parti québécois are quite behind Bill 96. I'm quite sure that it's going to be the same in a certain way because François Legault is trying to put the Liberal Party in a corner, saying, here is the Anglophone Party of Quebec. They're doing that per se, obviously, though. So we'll see what's going to happen next. But frankly, I'm not very optimistic about it.
We're speaking about the enforcement part of this, but Maître Bérard, before you go, what do you think of the bill as a whole, other parts of the other amendments that have been suggested to the Charter of the French language?
Well, you think, I mean, how may I put it? I mean, it's normal to adjust the Bill 101 since it's been adopted like 40 years ago or something. And I'm quite sure that most Anglophones in Quebec are, quite happy with the linguistic peace that we're having right now. But with Bill 96, it's like a sort of encroachment with unnecessary measure, just trying to attack a minority that goes along pretty well with the rest of Quebec society. So I'm quite concerned about it, first of all, and I'm especially concerned about all the discussion we had with the seizure without judicial authorization because it's not the way we work in a democratic society. And hopefully at one point, another government will remove those parts within that law if it is enacted as we think as of now.
We'll have to leave it there. Frédéric Bérard, thanks for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.
Frédéric Bérard is a lawyer and a professor in constitutional law at l'Université de Montréal, also co-director of l'Observatoire national en matière des droits linguistiques.